Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you. Even if you're dressed in turquoise. I told Mark that the woman who used to be kind of our color police person has gone, and we've kind of let go of the necessity to dress in the power color of the month. But I always like to. She told me I should speak more often in November because I was the only person she knew who actually had brown clothes. So some of us have now exhausted our brown clothes. So be prepared. Anyway, welcome to Unity. I wanted to start today with actually the reading of the daily word for tomorrow, because in all my preparation this week, I neglected to think about our veterans. And so tomorrow's daily word is honor. I honor those who place the needs of others above their own. Today, I honor with thoughts of respect and gratitude those who answered the call to serve, to share the best of oneself, to put others' needs above one's own, to be willing to sacrifice one's very life is honorable. I bless these special ones with prayers of appreciation. I pray they know security and protection as they serve, and peace of mind once their service is complete. I also honor those who served by how I live my life. I live with a fresh awareness of and renewed gratitude for my freedoms and privileges. I understand I would not be able to live as I do without the service and sacrifice of those who came before me. In reverence and with respect, I honor those who served. And from Proverbs 21, whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life and honor. So thank you. I'm pretty sure we have some veterans in our congregation. I also know we have a lot of people who serve, whether that's in the military or not in the military. We have a lot of people who serve this church, and we really honor and respect and bless you. So thank you. So today we get to release or renunciate, as Charles Fillmore would use the word. Renunciation and release is the theme for the month. So I'm reminded of the story of a donkey who fell in a well. And the farmer was just really distraught because the poor donkey was braying and howling and making a huge fuss and could not get out of the well. And the farmer looks down and he can't see a way to get the donkey out of the well. And the donkey's making so much noise that several of the neighbors come running over to try to help and figure out what to do. And they look and they look and they can't figure out a way to get the poor donkey out of the well. So the farmer finally says, well, you know what? Let's put him out of his misery. I've been wanting to fill in this well anyway. So let's just go ahead and start shoveling dirt down there, and the donkey will, he's kind of past his prime anyway. So they start shoveling dirt on the donkey, who screams even more. And then all of a sudden he's quiet and they don't understand what's going on. Why is the donkey quiet? And they look back down in the well and they see the donkey has realized that as the dirt gets shoveled on top of him, he can shake it off and tramp it down. And he's gradually being lifted up to the surface one more time. And sure enough, they shovel in enough dirt that that donkey gets out of the well. That's not a metaphor at all for how I'm feeling this week. Just in case you might wonder. So, the power of elimination. This is from Adventures in Resilience by Sharon Connors. This is an anonymous quote. You got to stop watering dead plants. I've watered many dead plants in my life, repeating continuously that what didn't work the first time around. I would tell myself that this time it would be different. It never was. My husband kept responding the same way as always. Or I told myself that I would stop smoking next week or next month or sometime, fill in the blank with the necessary circumstances. And that didn't work either. My children tried to help me by tossing a whole carton of my cigarettes into the crawl space of our home. And still, I was unwilling to release that bad habit. I fished them out and put them right back up in the kitchen cabinet, just a lot higher, so the kids couldn't reach them. If you look online for quotes on release, you'll find pages and pages. Apparently, many people have contemplated its importance enough to have learned something they wanted to share with the world. Most seem to be about relationships, the treasured ones and the painful ones. Still, letting go of what doesn't bring you alive can be among the most difficult things you ever have to do. I remember someone telling me once, anything I've ever let go of had claw marks on it. And that's been my experience too. Take, for instance, forgiving. Forgiving is kind of the code word that we look at a lot for the power of release and willing to let go. I feel like, yeah, that's kind of a setup for where I've been. Willing to let go. Am I willing to release my false beliefs? This week's election brought up a lot of that stuff for me. And I'll try to be very non-committal, though I think most people here know where my feelings and passions lie. But it was earth-shattering for the election results to come in. And I know that I probably wasn't the only one, because even if your side over here won, then there was this side over here that didn't win. What between the nominees who were running for office and the initiatives that were passed or not passed. So there seemed to be this huge split in the awareness of our country and the awareness of so many of us. And after going into prayer a lot this week, my husband was in the hospital. And so I did a lot of prayer and a lot of asking and a lot of, please help me to understand this. And I realized finally that I had bought into the whole idea that there was something outside of myself that was going to work. That my safety and security and peace of mind and happiness lay in this election turning out the way my ego said it should turn out. And I had to stop and say, wait a minute. When did I get so caught up in that belief that I let go of my own peace of mind? That I let go of the possibility that I could be happy instead of upset. that I could go to the ER and spend hours and hours waiting for a diagnosis, waiting for a room, waiting for whatever, and still somehow know that at the core of my being, things were in order, that life is good, that I am being taken care of, that the prayers and the loving support of all the people that I know were right there with me and right with Tom as well. From people saying, please let us know what we can do. To finally, the night before he came home, somebody just stopped by and brought me a cup of hot spiced cider. Now, normally I don't like hot spiced cider. And but I was trying, I think I was gracious. And I even drank it. And it was, amazingly, it was very comforting. And I think the comfort came from, of course, the fact that it was an honor, a gift of love. And, when we give each other that little gift of love, it's just overwhelming how much better one can feel. There's a quote from a Presbyterian minister and a soul coach. His name is Ian Cummins. When someone sees their marriage fail or loses a job that was important to them, they often feel a loss of identity. Something that felt like part of them no longer does. This morning, amid the many things running through my heart and mind, what I'm most fundamentally dealing with, I think, is that a loss of identity. In the coming days, much of the discussion will be about what Trump and Harris did and did not do right. But elections are not just about the candidates, they're about us. They're a reflection of who we, the people, are. And what happened yesterday made clear to me that who we as Americans are at this point in time is not who I thought we were. And therefore, something of who I thought I was as an American feels lost. Today, for me, this is the work. I am feeling a loss of identity. Not my identity as an American, nor my faith in what this country stands for or can be, but I must accept that we have a longer way to go than I had hoped, maybe much longer. So I will heed the pull to go inward. It's time to remind myself that who I most fundamentally am is not defined by politics or country, but by the loving spirit that created me. It's time to be held by that deeper, wider, eternal perspective so that I can hold my country and my fellow citizens with love and not bitterness. So I can come back out into the world with the strength and the faith to do my small part in shaping this country I love into the country I know it can be. Knowing that to live now as we think human beings should live in defiance of all that is bad around us is itself a meaningful, marvelous victory. So meaningful, marvelous victory. Interesting, as I said, that I don't think I've done too many talks about renunciation or release in November. I didn't find a whole lot of notes about it. But the disciple for the month is Thaddeus, and the woman figure from the Bible is Ruth. Now, Charles Fillmore, our founder, picked Thaddeus, and I did a Google search for Thaddeus, and he is one of the disciples that very, very little is known about. There's like two sentences about him in the Bible. He was born, it's believed, in AD 1, so he was a year younger than Jesus. He was called actually Judas Thaddeus, rather than the other Judas Iscariot, who was also a disciple. So they called him Thaddeus in recognition, just to keep him separate. They called him Jude, nickname for Judas, perhaps. Who knows? We weren't there 2,000 years ago, in case you hadn't noticed. But there are two places. According to John 14, Jesus says, I will not leave you as orphans. This is when he's addressing his disciples. I am coming to you after a little while. The world is no longer going to see me, but you, my disciples, will see me. Because I live, you will also live. On that day, you will know that I am in my Father, and you are in me, and I in you. The one who has my commandments and keeps them is the one who loves me. And the one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and reveal myself to him. Now, in a different book, Matthew, Thaddeus actually asks Jesus, Lord, what has happened that you are going to reveal yourself to us, the disciples, and not to the world at large? Well, a biblical scholar, John MacArthur, says that Christ was telling his disciples, I am not going to take over the world externally. I am going to take over hearts one at a time. If anyone loves me, he will love my word. And if he knows my word, my Father and I will come to him, and together we will set up the kingdom of God in his heart. So I found that just really comforting to know that even Thaddeus, the disciples, of course, didn't really quite understand what Jesus was trying to tell us or them. But those of us who realize our oneness and our love that's within us, in our hearts, are always going to be able to walk in the world and still be happy. As one of my favorite philosopher poets, Hugh Prather, would say, how do you live in the world and still be happy? And I think that's where release comes through. Charles Fillmore says, a right balance between receiving and giving, laying hold and letting go should be established. Love, tenderness, and fearlessness seem to be the dominating characteristics back of proper elimination for mind and body. Fear, hate, revenge, and the like cause resistance and tension in the consciousness and the organism, thus shutting off elimination, while love puts away fear and is of a softening, releasing, freeing, balancing nature. The other disciple, representative of the power of release is Ruth. Now, Ruth has her own book in the Bible, in the Old Testament, as we New Testament people call it. Of course, it's the Testament or the holy book for Jews, and they especially revere Ruth because they say she is one of them. I remember as a child being quite taken with Ruth, the story of Ruth. And I'm not quite sure why, except she was, I'll read a little bit more. A Moabite woman who married an Israelite Malin. But then she was married in this family, and all of the men in the family died. Her husband, her father-in-law, and her brother-in-law, leaving her mother-in-law, Naomi, and her sister alone. Now, at that time, of course, women alone were really in a lot of trouble because there was no place for them in society. They had to have a male family member be able to take care of them. And so Naomi, as the wise woman, the mother figure, told her daughters-in-law to go back to their homes, their family of origin, and see if they couldn't get married again, because otherwise they were going to be in a lot of trouble financially, et cetera, et cetera. And so the one daughter decides, oh, okay, you're probably right. I better just go home to my family, my birth family. But Ruth looks at her mother-in-law and says, no, I'm not going to go back. I am going to go with you wherever you go, knowing that as a woman, Naomi cannot travel even back to her family of origin by herself and be safe. This is where the famous quote, whither thou goest, I will go. Those who are your people will be my people. Ruth tells this to Naomi, her mother-in-law. Now, I thought for years this was something that Ruth had said to her husband, but no, it was actually Ruth said it to her mother-in-law. And so Ruth is known as a figure for release and renunciation because she gave up what she knew and she traveled with Naomi, far distant land. And they went back to Judah. The reason they had left Judah was because there had been a famine. And so they Naomi left to try to find a place where there was actually food. Well, now that famine had passed, and so they returned to Judah, Ruth and Naomi. But they were still without much support at all in any way. And so Ruth volunteers, says, I will go to the fields and glean what is left behind, the people who have reaped the fields, so that we may have some grain, some barley to eat and to support us after the harvest. And so Ruth goes to the fields. Now, this is also very, very dangerous for a young, unoccupied woman because the workers in the fields are known to not be very kind to young women. But Ruth, when she gets to the fields, is noticed by the owner of the fields. And he tells his workers to leave her alone, that let her pick up what's left over from the harvest and to keep it. And he also tells them to leave extra to support her and her mother-in-law because he is so touched by her courage and her willingness to do what is hers to do in order to take care of her mother-in-law. So it was interesting to me to realize in reading the stories, what little is known of Thaddeus and Ruth, that the word kindness came out in both stories. Ruth was kind-hearted, and willing to make a commitment and take care of her mother-in-law in spite of all circumstances. And Thaddeus was said to be one of the few disciples, or one of the disciples that was quiet and soft-spoken, and most of all, kind. So I think, as we go forward in our journeys, that's what we're being asked to do this month of November, to be kind to each other, to be soft-spoken, to spend time listening and being willing to let go of our preconceived ideas, our judgments, and instead just have an open heart and an open mind, and to move into trust that somehow in this journey that we're on together, we can trust that there's a greater plan. There's someone in charge that I don't necessarily see or understand what's happening, but amazing gifts of kindness and gentleness, and most of all, peace of heart can come when we're willing to let that be. Don't know if I have time for one more story. Jesus was hungry. Walking past a fig tree that had no fruit, Jesus cursed the fig tree. Surely Jesus knew that no fig tree in that region would contain fruit at this time, because it was not the season for figs. But Jesus was hungry. He cursed the fig tree. The next day, when passing the tree again, the disciples noticed that the tree had withered. This was one of my least favorite stories in the Bible about Jesus. I mean, why would he curse a fig tree? This is from Linda Martella Whitsitt's Divine Audacity book. In my early 20s, I was living alone in an apartment. A young man I knew stopped by to take me for a ride in his new car. We ended up at the apartment he shared with his girlfriend, who was not at home. At knife point, he intended to rape me. I did everything I could think of to stall him. And then miraculously, his girlfriend came home unexpectedly, and I escaped. A few years later, I had an opportunity to heal from this horror when, in an intensive energy and Gestalt therapy experience, I began shaking and screaming and yelling from my gut at full voice. You can hurt my body, but you can't hurt me. Over and over, I asserted the truth of my infinite self. In the past, I felt uncomfortable reading the fig tree account in the Gospels. I thought it revealed a distasteful side of Jesus I couldn't get past. How Jesus killed a perfectly innocent and useful tree. Rethinking this story by metaphysical interpretation, however, I saw that Jesus was demonstrating how to effectively utilize the spiritual tool named denial or release. He renounced all that was non-productive. And that's what I did with my infinite self knew how to do when I felt wounded. I released the non-productive idea that my human condition could interfere with my divine nature. And that's what I felt like I was doing this week, finally releasing that non-productive side of myself that was holding on to the idea and belief that something outside of myself could threaten my peace of mind. That something outside of myself could possibly determine my inner experience of knowing indeed all is well. So let's take a few moments to breathe, and we're going to do a little meditation that Marianne Williamson created in her book, The Mystic Jesus. So just get comfortable, shake a little bit if you need to. I'm feeling the need to shake it off a little bit. And close your eyes if that works for you. With your inner eye on the left side of your vision, see the other person that you've been having a hard time with. See them standing on your left side, the way they normally appear. See their body, their clothes, their behavior as you know it. And focus on that image for a moment. Then see a little ball of golden light begin to form in the area of their hearts. And slowly see that light expand until it covers every cell of their body. Again, going slowly, allow yourself to see that light expand beyond the confines of their body, shining so brightly that their physical body itself fades into shadow. See the light as it extends outward beyond their skin and all around them. Now, very slowly move your inner eye to the right side of your vision and see yourself. Look at yourself, your body, your clothes, how you express yourself. Now, see in the middle of your heart that little ball of golden light. Watch it expand and grow and cover every cell and organ of your body. And watch your body fade into shadow. Very slowly, watch the light expand beyond the confines of your body, making the physical body itself move into shadow. Watch as the light extends outward beyond your body and in every direction. Now, very slowly, look to the center, where the light extending from this other person merges with the light extending from you. There, in that golden light, beyond the body, is the temple of your holy relationship. Let's simply just stay here for a moment in that golden light. Be still and know that this is the truth of who we are. Allow yourself to recognize that point of oneness, which is the reality of spirit. Beyond the body, beyond separation, and beyond guilt. And we breathe into that golden light. And know indeed this is the lesson of release and renunciation, the willingness to see things differently, the willingness to claim that there is a better path, a better way, when we remember the truth of who we really are. For a few more moments, we just breathe into that space and slowly let it go, knowing that it may be gone from our conscious mind, our thoughts, our fears, but we can recall it at any moment, wherever we are. Breathe and slowly return your awareness to this room, this place of peace, of safety, of love. We open our eyes, if you're willing to, and just say thank you. Thank you for this blessed moment when we know the truth that we are the light. So now let us move into our prayer for protection together. Is it on the wall? Yes. Okay. Together, the light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are the power. The presence of God watches over us. We are the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. We are one.